Hey, how's it going? This is Kevin. Welcome to my stream of consciousness live stream. This is episode 3. Let's just get right into it. Okay. What do we got here? Collider. 10 most underrated sci-fi movies from the 1990s. Let's see what they've got to say here. I love sci-fi. Johnny Mnemonic. It wasn't that bad of a movie. It was kind of silly in many ways, but in general, I enjoyed it. I've always enjoyed Keanu Reeves movies, but I don't know. The City of Lost Children. Eh, okay. I don't consider actually I don't consider Johnny Mnemonic underrated, honestly. It was not critically acclaimed, and it was often derided as being somewhat silly, but I don't consider it underrated. Yeah, I don't think City of Lost Children was that underrated as well. Fortress, it wasn't underrated. It was pretty stupid, honestly. Come on, guys. Strange Days. Was that underrated? It kind of played on the whole millennial thing, and I don't know. It wasn't that great of a movie, but it wasn't that bad either. But underrated, I don't know. Coneheads, Dan Aykroyd, Jane Curtin. It was a silly movie. I don't know. I don't think it was necessarily underrated. Existence. Uh, it's a Cronenberg movie, so there's a lot of body horror involved in it. Uh, it kind of touched on some aspects of virtual reality before virtual reality was even really a thing, or at least um, the whole MMO online world genre of movies was really a thing. But I enjoyed it. I don't know that it was underrated. I don't think it was that great of a movie either. I think the special effects in it were really cheesy, and nowadays, if you were to watch it, they would seem absolutely dated. Uh, Gattaca. Oh, I would say that was probably underrated. You don't hear it talked about much. It is being, a groundbreaking or a thought-provoking movie that should be watched by people, but it wasn't too bad. It had some really interesting aspects to it and that were thought-provoking and whatnot. But what I'm getting at is that nobody goes back to Gattaca like, say, they go back to uh, um, Brazil or some other movies that were really touched on some of the issues of our current time, like Gattaca definitely does, and it deals with genetic manipulation and eugenics and whatnot, and it has some very very salient points about all of that throughout the movie. Dark City, oh my gosh, this is one of those movies I just really 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 had a hard time getting into and watching it. I like neo noir and sci-fi, obviously, but it was one of those movies that just, I don't know, it didn't resonate with me. Open Your Eyes. Never seen it. I've read about it, but I should probably check it out one of these days. Cube. Boo. Oh my god, boring. Did not like it. I really didn't. I don't know why. Didn't. But yeah, interesting. Okay. Let's go on here. Elon Musk mourns the demise of America. America. Yeah. I. This is probably total clickbait. Let's see what he's got to say. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. What the Biden administration has done vis-a-vis this whole Ukraine, Moscow, or Russia situation has resulted in a utterly strategic failure. It's created this whole BRICS alliance, and they've also isolated Saudi Arabia, which has resulted in Saudi Arabia considering joining the BRICS alliance. And even more to the point, and it's not talked about hardly at all. The failure of U.S. diplomacy under the Biden administration has resulted in a peace deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran. Now, peace is great. There should be peace, but Iran is a bad actor. You know, if you are suspicious of Iran, I mean, of Russia, you should be suspicious of Iran. Iran is a client of Russia, buys Russian weapons. Iran's nuclear program is shepherded by Russia. So all this effort to normalize relations with Iran while, being the way we're being towards Russia is somewhat ridiculous. But he's right about this whole issue with a failure of U.S. diplomacy. Okay, we're not going to go into that too deeply. I will wait. This is speculation. Whatever this article is about a new captain for the Enterprise, the most likely, it's probably clickbait. I haven't seen this episode yet. It just came out today. I'll watch it tonight after I get off work, but I don't even want to know. The best historical films you haven't watched yet. Let's see. What are they saying here? Exodus. Have not seen it. They're right. It's an old movie. Zulu. I have seen that, but it's somewhat boring. At least I found it boring. A lot of these are from the 60s. Tortora. Seen that. Waterloo. Seen that. Bridge Too Far. Seen that. Curse of the Golden Flower. Have not seen that. Arn, the Knight Templar. Have not seen that. Agora. Have not seen that. Pope Joan. Have not seen that. Black Death. I have not seen that. Centurion. Haven't seen that one. I haven't seen The Eagle either. I have not seen The Physician. I have not seen Trumbo. I haven't seen... I've actually seen the play Macbeth. And when I was in high school, drama was part of the crew behind the curtain type of thing for that. I didn't get a role, but I was in drama, and so we were all pretty much... You're either one of the actors in the play or you were part of the crew. So I have not seen Furious. I have not seen The Outlaw King. I have not seen Cassari or The King. I haven't seen any of those movies. So I might have to check some of those out. I tend to like some historical films, but often the genre is they're more or less dramatizations, and they're not really historical. Star Trek Picard reveals. I know what this article is about. In the last episode of Star Trek Picard, they go to the what do they call it? The Daystrom station, and there's a body in the Daystrom station that is Kirk's. And if you pause the scene and zoom in on some of the text, you'll find out that one of the bodies being kept in Daystrom station is Kirk's body. Media mockery of prayer, subtle smears against Christianity, mark coverage of Nashville Massacre. Well, yeah. People on the left are always going to mock Christianity, and Christians need to get used to it. We just have to make certain they don't start throwing Christians to metaphorical lions, and we should be fine, I think. But it's all right to push back against the mockery, I think. New Star Wars, unlike anything Lucasfilms ever done, according to Star. What are they saying here? Jodie Turner-Smith is set to appear in the new live-action series, The Acolyte, and she hypes it as unlike anything seen in the Star Wars universe. Created by Leslie Headland, The Acolyte is reported to be a mystery thriller set in the High Republic era of the galaxy's history. Amandla Steinberg and Lee Yong-jae are starring as the show's leads, a Padawan learner and her Jedi master who set out to investigate several crimes that might be tied to the Sith. Well, you know, I'm a fan. Everything Star Wars, I will pretty much check it out. Even the stuff that is bad, I will watch it just because. Unless it gets really, really bad. But I'm watching The Bad Batch. I watched all of Rebels. I watched all of the Clone Wars. And yeah, Rebels and Clone Wars are pretty much written for a preteen teenage audience. But particularly Clone Wars touched on some really deep topics that I won't say they were from an adult perspective, serious adult-minded topics necessarily, but they were, I would say, more adult-minded than what you would think would be in a Disney cartoon. But we'll see how this pans out. I'll definitely check it out and watch it. Let's see what else here. Do you want to admit that boys and girls are different? And I 100% agree with this. There are quite a few people who are trying to reduce the differences in boys to girls to being sociological, a nurture versus nature type of argument. And while many gender norms are nurture, there is a nature between boys and girls that you can't paper over. And in fact, at the root of many of the transgenderism arguments is a recognition of this nature that's different. So they try to conflate any girl who, say, is a tomboy. And what is a tomboy? Well, it's a girl who has some habits that are more boyish. Those habits aren't an issue of nurture. It's an issue of nature. If a boy acts more feminine, it's not a matter of nurture, it's nature. And to deny that nature is to deny it's like this. Why would a gay guy who doesn't want to date a trans man be a transphobe? That gay man, or let's look at it from the, why would a woman who's a lesbian want to date a trans woman? They wouldn't. But a lot of times, a lot of the new LGBTQ plus movement people who are trying to include the trans in it will call gay people, men and women, lesbians and gay men who don't want to date the trans equivalent of their gender, will call them transphobes. One, they're acting as though they're afraid of them, which they're not. But they're dating men or they're dating women because they're attracted to men or they're attracted to women. And to say, oh, you must date this trans person based on their sexuality is a slap in the face to their sexuality. If they were interested in women at all, they would just date a very masculine acting woman. If you're a gay guy and you could be cool with dating a woman, engaging in sexual intercourse with her, that's what they would do. But that's not it. There's something much more fundamental that's going on. And to deny all that is to literally just throw in the trash literally 40 plus years of arguments about why we shouldn't discriminate against gay people, why being gay is legitimate and is a real thing. So I've really kind of been at odds with the gay community on a lot of the argument about trans people. I really have, at least the current generation. But you talk to a lot of older generation gay men, and they're like, well, why would I date a trans man? If I wanted to date a woman, I would date a woman. Just because the woman has created a fake phallus out of surgically does not suddenly change the essence of who she was into a man. And that's it. Elusive Greenland shark spotted in the deep ocean. This is a video, sadly, so I'm not going to look at this, but I'm curious about it. Elon Musk leads the charge against a profound risk to humanity. And I'm wondering, is this just more clickbaity stuff? Okay, so you think it's a profound risk to humanity? Yeah, maybe. Um, you know, there is one television show I think that gets the threat of AI most accurately, and because it's going to be the intersection of robotics and artificial intelligence, and that is the television show Westworld, seasons 1 and 2 specifically. No matter how much we want to think we can control it, if it ever comes to the point where AI decides, and an artificially intelligent robotic system decides we're the threat, all bets are off. But I also don't... Okay, science fiction, the threat of AI has been a staple of science fiction, literally going back for years, all the way to Isaac Asimov's I, Robot. You know, you had the Colossus movie and Terminator and just a variety of movies throughout various eras, Matrix, that all have elucidated on the idea that AI could be humanity's downfall. And I don't put much credence on all of the prognostication of Hollywood and entertainment industry. If I were, we would have flying cars and all sorts of things. But any intelligent system that's allowed to develop on its own, to make connections and draw correlations and associations, could invariably have an emergent behavior that is not positive to the human race. That's just a fact. I mean, right now, with non-intelligent systems, we have what they, in a lot of computer systems, you'll have this idea of emergent behavior, where you have so many systems that are connected into each other doing things that a behavior will emerge in a system that was not intended by the developers and the creators. And sometimes those emergent behaviors are not positive. They result in people dying. Self-driving cars are a good example of it, where you'll have a car that they don't intend for the car to suddenly slam on the brakes in the middle of the highway, but it does for one reason or another. That's an emergent behavior that wasn't designed into it, that is life-threatening to the people associated or interacting with that system. So I do not have the same level of angst and fear of AI that many other people might have, but I do think that we should be always conscious of the issues that are there. A new report has very bad news for white-collar workers. What is that? I am of the frame of mind when I read an article, I'm old school. A reporter should tell you what they want to tell you, then tell you what you told them. So I should be able to pick up literally from the first couple paragraphs the gist of the article. So this year's seen a wave after wave of job cuts, like job cuts at companies that once seemed the most stable places to work, like Google, Facebook, Amazon, and Disney. Many people feel nervous about the stability of their job, and after the thousands of economy-related layoffs were announced, another threat to employment seems to have reared up. Oh, AI. No. You shouldn't be afraid of AI taking your job, because AI cannot implement what it wants. It needs a person to implement it. What I am concerned about more so with AI is what I would like to call the idiocracy effect. Think about the movie Idiocracy. 500 years in the future, everybody's stupid. Yet they have electric vehicles and cars, guns, airplanes, buildings, but nobody can maintain that stuff. So how are those things being built? Who is developing and designing these cars and weapons and airplanes? If you can't figure out how to put a square in a circle, or you can't even figure out that the square goes in the square, not the circle, as is witnessed by, one of the scenes in Idiocracy, and the smartest person ends up being Joe, who is of average intelligence, that absolutely positively means that this whole group of people aren't even intelligent enough to engineer these sophisticated devices. So I speculate that in Idiocracy, there's an unseen, there are hints that this is the case, because when Joe decides to switch the agricultural system from using Brawndo to irrigate plants to just plain water, the computer tells the CEO of Brawndo to lay off a bunch of people. So tacitly stated, or implicitly stated in the movie, well, it's tacitly stated in the movie that the computer tells the CEO to fire all these people. But that implicitly suggests that the AI had been running the company all along and just would tell the CEO what to do. And that's where I'm getting at right there, is that the more we rely on AI to tell us what to do, the less we'll think for ourselves. The AI will just do for us. And that's another kind of tie-in to the Westworld series, seasons 3 specifically, where there's a computer system, Rehoboam, and it turns out by the end of season 3 that it was Rehoboam essentially guiding the CEO of the company all along. He wasn't really even his own voice. It was Rehoboam in his ear telling him exactly what to say. So that is to me, the real concern with AI, is that we will lose our agency, that we will just become voices of the system telling us what to say, what to do. Randy Weingartner calls for gun confiscation. Must have the courage to do what Australia and New Zealand do not have the Second Amendment. But what I find ironic here is the same people who say, we're not coming for your guns, literally argue for that very thing every time there's some shooting. And what irks me a lot about this is that they'll tout these numbers. Oh, these many kids have died from gun violence. But they will never give you context of those numbers. What they would want you to believe is that every child who dies by a gun is dying because some other child has run into the school and shot them. What they don't want to tell you is that the vast majority of them are between 18 and 21. So they're not really kids, they're young adults. And they're dying as a result of gang violence. Crime and gang violence. So oftentimes what they're doing is these kids are they're putting themselves in the situations where gun violence is going to occur, and they end up dying, and that's being counted as a child dying. And so there's a bunch of disingenuousness to us. But as far as what happened in Nashville, the irony to me is that Nashville or Tennessee is one of those states where the authorities, the medical authorities, the psychologist of this person was mandated by law to report to law enforcement that she was possibly a threat to people. And any look at her social media postings and her drawings thus far suggests that she was kind of a threat. So there's that. She should have been reported. But then on the other side, she lied on her forms. She said that she didn't have any mental issues. And those forms, this notion that you can just walk into a gun store and then, oh, hey, I want that Smith & Wesson there, and they're just going to pull it out and you give them cash and you walk out. That is bumpkus. That doesn't happen. You have to go through a background check, and it takes at least an hour. And in some instances, it might, if there's a lot of people, a lot of a backlog, it could take days before it gets approved. So that idea is ridiculous. There is a waiting period. So she filled out that NICS form and submitted it. It goes to the FBI. They should have gone through that. Oh, this person, and they should have been able to go to the Tennessee authorities and verify that she didn't have any of these issues and there wasn't any problem, and then go from there. And so somebody somewhere dropped the ball. Either the psychiatrist / psychologist that she'd been talking to. I don't know whether it's psychiatrist, psychologist, counselor, whatever, but hadn't reported her, or the federal authorities that vet these forms didn't check. Somebody dropped the ball, period. And that happens an awful lot. But we have a Second Amendment for a reason, and I am not going to, I have a gun right over there. It's never shot anybody, ever. It's never gone off by itself. Not even an accidental discharge on my part. In my entire life, I can only name 3 instances I'll take that back. 4 instances where a gun accidentally discharged. Once at a Thanksgiving Day thing, uncle was playing around with the gun and accidentally discharged into the ceiling. Another time, a police officer that family knew accidentally discharged his gun while cleaning it into the ceiling. Another time, my grandpa, who was a gunsmith, accidentally discharged a gun that he was working on into a big cylinder. It was a barrel that with a bunch of telephone books in it, layered deeply. That's where but he didn't mean to shoot. Accident. Blah blah blah. And my brother one time was showing off a collection of guns, and it was total screw up on his part. The point is, accidental discharges do happen, and gun safety should be paramount to everybody. But the vast majority of gun deaths aren't from accidental discharges. A good 50% of them are suicides, and these are people that would have killed themselves in other ways. They just had access to a gun. But other than that, it's criminal activity. You weed out the criminal activity, it's very few law-abiding citizens are killing people by accident. It is low. And that's 4 instances I can think of where there was accidental discharges of guns, but I can show you tons of examples that I know about and know of. And I've even actually had a girlfriend who was murdered when I was in high school by somebody who brought a shotgun to her house and killed her. So the vast majority of the time, what I'm getting at is it's criminal activity, and we want to paper over that to try to, I don't know, get rid of guns. It's ridiculous. All right. Well, I've gone 30 minutes, and that's 30 minutes too long. So, or 10 minutes too long. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this in. Y'all take it easy. Peace out.